Hello everyone, Cheek here with another Transformers review, and today I'll be reviewing the Transformers Star Wars The Mandalorian crossover in the N1 Starfighter. This is something I was looking forward to, and there's some good and there's some bad, and we'll take a closer look. This is the reason why Transformers should go back to doing Star Wars crossovers, because this is actually really cool. Although there are some fiddly parts that I really wish were done a little bit differently. Like, for example, I wish the stand, like, it does have a pivot down there, but it doesn't pivot backwards, so you can't angle it this way or whatever. It's just perfectly flat. But the detail on this thing is really cool. I do wish it had the child that you could put in here, because what is the point of having the child's thing if you're not going to put it in there, unless they have a plan to make another crossover for the Mandalorian where they do the child. I don't know. It just seems kind of silly that they'd have that and wouldn't have the child. So you can see some of the parts that look like for for Mando, for the Mandalorian, and underneath, but for the most part it just looks like, you know, the N1 Starfighter, so that's pretty cool. Now the downside is that this tail thing comes off pretty easily, but other than that it tends to stay in vehicle mode pretty well. There are blast effects for the front two blasters, and then I guess boosters for the engines, and that's the only place that you can use them. They can't really be used anywhere else. Then, of course, the stand and the cape that goes around the stand. And what's interesting, though, the stand base does turn into a shield, and that, like I said, turns into the cape. But on the instruction booklet, it does not say where to plug them in, although it is pretty self-evident. But it does show them on the box. There are two more blast effects that aren't used in this configuration. There is this little one, which is for his little handgun, and then this one, which is used for the gun that goes on the tail back there. And then there is one other accessory, his little handgun, but I did figure out that you can transform him with it in its holster, which is pretty convenient. But that's pretty much it for the Starfighter mode, so I guess go ahead and I guess show off everything else for it. Okay, so there is one more thing that can be done for this mode, although it really isn't exactly, because you take this part off and then take this off, so you can't just have this on without this little pod. I'm assuming at some point in The Mandalorian, I haven't seen all of the show, but I have seen up to the point where he obviously gets this fire, because, you know, Razor Crest, boom! Really sad. I really like that ship. Anyway, I guess for Grogu to be launched into the air, so one thing you can do is essentially tab this into one of these blasts, and then peg this in there, and then you have a launching child pod without the child inside, which is a real shame, because it wouldn't have been that much effort to make just a tiny little child figure, even if it's not painted, just, you know, a solid green plastic figure of him. Even that would have been satisfactory, because then I guess you could just customize it yourself with a little black pen for his eyes or something. Anyway, I guess this kind of sort of is the first step for getting him transformed. This doesn't really have anything to do with the robot mode. The only thing you can maybe do if you want to is just keep it attached to this, because this does turn into a weapon in robot mode. But other than that, it is a part that just doesn't really go anywhere in his alt mode. Same with this stand piece. But since it's a stand, I'll cut it some slack. I think it's really cool that they decide to make the stand base into a shield, which does have his emblem on it. It would be nice if the emblem was on his shield, but not shield, his shoulder, but it's not. But also, I mean, obviously these are his arms, so if they had it on the shoulder, it would be pretty evident. And here we have Mando in his robot mode, and it does look pretty cool. I will say it'd be nice if these could collapse a bit more, or collapse at all, I should say, or fold back, fold up, whatever. I mean, it does give the impression of like a knight's lance. And then also his arms are a little stubby. It feels a little short. That's not the end of the world. But it is cool. But the main thing I don't like about the arms is the screws right there. But again, I guess I'd rather see it on the robot than the space fighter mode, because it just... You're going to have the screw holes somewhere. I'm sure there might be a third-party company that just makes little fillers for those. And I also like these little guns right here. It kind of makes you think of the wrist-mounted guns that a lot of the Mandalorians have on their persons or their suits of armor. And then I like how there's like built-in like little brown parts that are supposed to look reminiscent of the leather. Or whatever that material is that is used in with the armor. But it's a pretty cohesive, clean look for the most part, which is better than most Transformers from the Star Wars crossover era back in the day, like I think 2006, 2007, around that time frame, maybe a little bit later. But don't get me wrong, they were pretty fun when they came out, but some of them were pretty bad. Like, I mean, their alt modes were generally really good, but the robot modes sometimes left a lot to be desired. But if we could go back to those and revamp them or make new characters, by all means, I would love to see that again. That would be so cool, because I love those types. I think that's why so many people love the crossover figures that they've been doing. Some of them not so much, but it's just because people like that sort of thing, and it's cool to see different franchises intermingling like this. Anyway, I guess let's take a close look at his noggin. I can't remember if he has an antenna or not. I don't think he does. So, I mean, and also Mandalorians are like perfect for Transformers, as they already have helmets. As I will say, the humanoid characters that didn't wear armor, that just had like a somewhat mechanical looking version of their faces, some of them look just really weird. But I mean, like Obi-Wan and Anakin, and I think Mace had one at some point, but I will say one of my favorite ones is the General Grievous one that turned into the wheel thing that he was riding. And they also, most of them came with little pilot figures too, which is also really cool. Anyway, I'm getting myself distracted. Yeah, and then just all this detail, I love it. I don't know how accurate it is to 100% to Mando's look, but I do know that he has at least some brown on him, but it's mostly, you know, the metallic Beskar armor and all that. I guess I'll go ahead and do articulation. The head is on a ball joint. You can look up and down. Has a little bit of wibbly wobbly. Head can do a full 360. There's also some nice molded in detail on the back of the helmet. Head, whatever, because I guess this is a head, not really a helmet, unless there's a face on there, which would be really weird. Not physically on the toy, but yeah. Anyway, arms can go out about that far, but that's another problem with these, is he's just going to be hitting himself in the head. Arms can, for the most part, do a full 360, except these do get in the way. You do have a nice stiff bicep rotation. Get a little less than 90 degree bend at the elbow. You do have a wrist rotation, but it does kind of cause that to pop open. And also in jet mode or starfighter mode, it does not necessarily sit 1% closed. It kind of sits like that. It's really annoying, but it's not the end of the world. And I guess this came undone. Yeah, getting this to stay in place, I guess, can be slightly tricky. Come on, get back in there. You're sitting in there so nice. It's probably because of the moving the arms all around. You do have, wrist rotation. That's where I was. Okay, and then you of course have waist swivel, but that's also kind of for transformation. It seems it's a little off center, mainly for transformation, but it is still hip rotation. I do like the belt there with it looks like some pouches. Legs, you can do the full splits. Not so far on this leg because of the holster. Legs go forward that far, back that far. Thigh rotation. double bend at the knee, although one of them's more for transformation, but it does give you extra bend. But for the regular knee joint, it's about 90 degrees. If you utilize the other joint, over 90 degrees. And then you do get ankle tiltage, which is also part of the transformation. Let me guess. Did I forget? Okay, that's something I forgot to do when I was transforming back into a Starfire mode. And I was wondering why this wasn't tabbed together properly, because there's a little tab that you're supposed to flip out. I flipped it in but never flipped it back out. Well, maybe I'll remember that next time. Okay, so that was articulation. Like I said, he does have this tiny little handgun, which I think is really cool, but it is kind of appropriate for his size, and it also allows him to make it into it is kind of a small holster and a small gun for the robot, but in order to make it work, I guess, so that you can transform it with it in there, they made it, well, it's kind of small. Whoops, and there he goes. So you can hold this little oh yeah, that handgun is a little small. Like, it is really small, even for a handgun. I mean, that's not to say there aren't small handguns. There are definitely small handguns, but it makes sense in that case. Oh, come on, why are you so wanting to fall over like that? But you do have that little blast effects. And then one thing that's really cool that they showed that I thought was awesome, because Mandalorians have jetpacks. Essentially, these little guns, if you decide to put these blast effects are for the guns, it's essentially a jetpack. So that's really cool. I think that is pretty awesome. Let's go ahead and take those off. And then if we want to give him everything, let's go ahead. I guess I'll technically take this off, although it will fit on his arm if you have that bubble thing on there. But as far as per the instructions, you put it on like that, or you can have him hold it. Now, if I want him to have the shield on as well, I will definitely have this in his hand. And then the largest blast effect goes on to here. It's probably because the shorter ones probably wouldn't stick out past the end of the tail of the fighter. And then I guess go ahead and put on his cape. Although to put on his cape, you do have to fold the wings parts in, and then you just tab that in like so. And he has a cape. It is a little small for the Mandalorian, but it is kind of cool. An energy shield cape, I guess, is what it would be. And then let's see, put that on his arm, although I think it'd probably make more sense to put on his arm with the little handgun, because it looks like that gun would do much more damage. And then I guess make sure that that's facing just so. Then plug that in, and now he has a big old shield, and he can protect himself and the child, and do whatever he needs to do. There we are. Yeah, he's pretty cool. That's pretty much all that you can do with him. There is the stand base. There might. It would have been nice if they had an adapter. Doesn't really look like there's anything on here to make him like flying in his robot mode. But let's see if there's something I can do about that.
Hooray! I figured out a way to use the stand in robot mode, and I think it looks really cool. It is a bit finicky because it is on his leg, but it can work if you position it ever so specifically, and he won't fall over, hopefully. But I absolutely love this guy, and that's about it for this review of Transformers Star Wars The Mandalorian crossover. And if you like this review and you'd like to see more, please click that like and subscribe button to see more. Until next time, have a good one, everyone.